Get it started. Today's April 29th, and basically, this is maintenance and development. I'm the chair, and I'm here with my colleague, Counselor Catering Walsh. I want to thank her for being here in attendance. And we also have Chris Signoli. Um, I want to thank Chris for the work that you've done. Thank you for coming down. There's a few I know a lot of people have a few questions concerning the city and the different things that are being put in place in order to provide safety. And I know a lot of people are concerned with biking and safety and a lot of different issues. So hopefully, Chris, you can we won't beat you up or anything. Hopefully you can hopefully you can be you can answer some of these concerning issues that a lot of constituents and people have. If we can, I'll just have people introduce themselves real quick. Um I'll let the counselor wait last because I'll let her actually speak. But we'll go from Todd over. Todd, is there?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Todd Crossett. I live in the Hungry Hill area, Nordica, and I've been part of Walk Bike Springfield for a good 10 years.
Good to have you. And Betsy.
Betsy Johnson, again with Todd, one of the initial founders of Walk Bike Springfield. I'm also in a statewide capacity, the current president of the statewide pedestrian advocacy organization, Walk Massachusetts, who has over the years done, I think we're up to 16 different walk audits throughout all different parts of Springfield, identifying possible walking pedestrian safety issues, both related to schools and just in general.
Good to have you. And Bill, I see Bill.
You're muted.
Got to unmute. Well, good to have you, Bill. And,
Bill Malloy, another
and,
pedestrian and bike advocate.
and Chris,
And Chris Signoli, DPW Director.
always pleasure. And I see Kevin Green. Kevin.
Yes, I'm Kevin Green. I'm proud to be part of Walk Bike Springfield. Also, I am the founder and CEO of Seeds of a Father.
Okay, so great to have you guys here. Really, I have some questions and concerns, but usually I would start this off, but seeing that I have our veteran, one of our veterans here, I know she has a lot. She might have a lot. She might have some more. She might have some more intense questions. So I'm gonna turn the floor over to my colleague, Catering Walsh, and the floor is yours, Counselor.
Thank you, Councilor Brown, and thank you for having this meeting. I know there's been a lot of concern with Walk Bike Springfield. I just met recently with Betsy. We talked about some of the issues we both are concerned about. And recently with Councilor Santinello, we took a tour of the Central Library. And Chris, the question still remains about the safety on State Street and what's happening there. So I think we'd all like to know what future plans are and what's going to be done. Because according to Betsy, and this is a statistic I don't think we want, Springfield has more pedestrian deaths than Boston. So I think we need to do something to change that.
I can give an update of what is going on State Street.
Good.
The State Street crossing is out to bid. The contract has been awarded. And we are expecting work to start in the next 4 weeks or so. At the same time as that, excuse me, it got delayed a little bit because adjacent to the library, between the library and St. Michael's Cathedral, the city is going to be leasing some land from St. Michael's to install additional parking for employees of the library on that side of the building. It's 40 or so spaces. So the construction contract includes the construction of the crossing on State Street, as well as the construction of the parking lot adjacent to the library at the same time. So we're working with the contractor right now. He got his contract final on Friday. So we're working with him on schedule. His contract also includes sidewalk work all over the city as well. And as well as ARPA projects, I believe, in Forest Park and one other area that I think Hungry Hill is the other area where we're doing some ARPA projects as well. So that project has been awarded. We are just waiting for a firm date from the contractor for him to be able to start the work.
Where will the access be? Will it be off of State Street or?
To the parking area?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an existing driveway that's there now on that side of the building. So we're using that, and the edge of the driveway is actually the land that belongs to St. Michael's. So we were able to come to an agreement with the diocese on the lease of that land for parking as well. And obviously at the same time, they will be able to use it at certain times on weekends as well. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody at the same time to be able to get that parking. So we had to get that design work done, which probably delayed us a couple weeks to get that out. So, but contract's been awarded, and the driveway that's there now is the driveway that will be used for people to get in and out of that parking area. Primarily,
where-
there's some parking there now, but
It's
that's
the
probably one
handicap.
of their main delivery areas as well.
It's where the handicap parking for the library actually is. So that hopefully will improve the access to the handicap parking.
And can I just ask you, Chris, what will the improvements for safety actually look like on State Street?
On State Street, we're doing lane narrowing. You will be going from 2 lanes to 1 lane through that area. There will be an island placed in the middle, and there will be a hawk system installed so that when pedestrians want to cross the street, they hit the pedestrian button. And it's not like you're seeing in some of the other areas in the city where you get a flashing light. This will actually turn red so that pedestrians crossing the street can cross the street and vehicles will have to stop.
Oh, good. Good. Is that hawk system being put in anywhere else in the city?
There's one other right now that's actually up on State Street just before, I think it's Andrew Street, just after Catherine. There's a crossing there that was put in. Indian Motorcycle did a parking lot on the opposite side of the street, where Rebecca
that's
Johnson
Jordan.
School is on that side of the street. So there's a hawk system there. I don't see that one activated a lot, but I would expect that this one on State Street to be activated a lot.
Yeah, well, thanks for the update. All good news.
Thank you. And we're joined also with my colleagues, Councilor Govan and Councilor Dablia. Usually, like I said, when in my meetings, I usually allow the councilors to address first. So I know Councilor Dablia was on. Is there something you want to address with Chris?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, for this meeting and this important topic. Chris, thank you for the overview. But first, let me give you my compliments. We're in Ward 4, actually, with Councilor Brown's district on Wilbraham Street. There is some wonderful islands that are coming up, and it's really, I have noticed, because I go there every day, I have noticed that it has really forced people to slow down, thus making it safer for the pedestrian. But when we talk about specifically about the library, is that conceptually something similar to what's happening in Wilbraham Road that we're going to be seeing?
Yeah, the one on Wilbraham Road is an RRFB beacon that basically blinks yellow when people are crossing. The one that is going to be on State Street is actually going to stop traffic. One of the complaints that I'm getting now about a lot of these RRFBs that are blinking yellow, some of the drivers don't acknowledge them. So this being a red light, drivers will have to acknowledge that. So that's the only difference. It will also be raised So people driving over it are not going to be able to drive 50 miles an hour either up or
Right.
down State Street. So that's
Right.
well, they can, they just lose the undercarriage of their car. So
Right.
they'll,
And in terms
they'll
of,
do that once.
right, right. And in terms of the island, is the island going to be similar to that on Wilbraham Road?
Yeah, yeah, a little similar. I think the one at State Street is going to be a little wider because we had a little bit more real estate to work with there.
Right. Now, Chris, I know that if driving through this raised, what's the word that you use, bump, or what's the word that you use?
Table.
Yeah, this is a raised crosswalk, so it's kind of a
Right.
speed table type of thing, because it is, I want to say it's about 10 feet wide. So
Got
yeah,
it.
when you go over it, it's wide enough that it's not just a speed bump.
So if that's not a deterrent enough for somebody to slow down, I don't know what will be. But do we have in terms of fines? Is that a fine offense that in the city, failure to yield to a yellow blinking lights on that,
Yeah.
not a red? Is that a fine of an offense that police could fine somebody?
Yeah, it is. It is. The police can't, if the police witness it, and if in this case on State Street, they could be going through a red light. On the other one, it's failure to yield to pedestrians in a signal controlled crosswalk. So all of them are finable offenses based on the police.
And do you know what that offense is?
I
What's the-
don't know. I don't know.
all right.
I'm
All
gonna
right,
guess it's not as much as it should be.
Well, that's why, because, we are number 2 in the state with fatalities, and like Councilor Wall said, that's not a distinction we want. So, but thank you for the work you're doing, Chris.
Thank
And thank you for making the city safer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
Thank you, Councilor Davi. And now I see Councilor Govan. Do you have anything you?
Thank you for the acknowledgement. I'm sorry I'm late. No, I'm glad that this project is going on. Hi, Todd. Hi, Betsy. I'm glad that this project is finally coming around and coming to fruition. Has the work started on there already, Chris, or not yet?
No, it has not started yet. I'm
Okay.
expecting it to be in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks or so that they'll be starting.
Okay, that's really good news. I'm glad to hear that.
When I
And,
get an exact, no, I'm sorry, Council, when I do get an exact
that's
date,
okay.
I'll publish it and let everybody know on that, obviously.
Okay, yeah, because has been a long time coming, and I really, like Council Davila said, admire the work up on Wilbraham Road, and I'm really excited that there's going to be a speed table on State Street, and I'm wondering, of course, how we can get more of those across the city, because as you know, speeding is a problem all over the city, Boston Road, Berkshire Avenue, Page Boulevard, Sumner Avenue even. So I'm just hoping that might be something that we can use as an example for the rest of the city, because today I got a few calls about the speeding problem all across the city. So like Council Davila said, I want to thank you for, making our city safer in that way. And hopefully we can continue to increase it and spread it out all over the city. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. And I see, is that Councilor Allen, I believe? Councilor Allen, do you have any? Okay. We'll wait on him. So now I'll open up the floor for any I'll wait for my questioning. I'll open up the floor to anyone. You guys know how to do your hand things? If anybody wants to speak.
There we go. Raise the hand.
Okay, there you go. So Betsy, can you?
Well, yes, no, as you know, been sort of pressing for this meeting for a while, because, we weren't, actually in terms of total pedestrian fatalities this year, Boston beat us out by 1, but, per our population, we had the highest rate. We also had the highest rate 2 years or 3 years ago. Chicopee beat us out last year. And we talk about there's sort of the 3 E's and I hear about, and I go around and I'm part, since I'm the president of the Downtown Neighborhood Council, we have joint neighborhood council meetings every so often that Ed Whitley pulls together. And yes, if there's one issue that is common to every single council in this city, Zeta goes to those meetings. What do we hear about? Speeding. And the police can, enforcement can do so much, and our police have been involved, are trying to help with that. They do special, efforts. Education, we need to definitely, I know MassDOT is thinking about ways to, since these different kinds of beacons are relatively new, it's a big issue where they've been put up, say in Northampton, where the bike paths cross the roadways and people don't know what they mean. So there's going to be a lot more education that way. And we work together with Safe Routes to School on their education programs. But when we look at it, and part of the reason Springfield does keep having so many, I mean, we may not have had quite as many pedestrian fatalities, but we had actually more outright roadway fatalities in Springfield than any other community in Massachusetts. And it is because we do have an antiquated 60s, 70s roadway design, lots of arterials, 2 lanes in each direction. People are looking to see how fast they can get in and out of Springfield, even right through residential neighborhoods. And so we're looking at, Walk Bike Springfield has been, do we try to do what some of the other communities do and really get the council to pass a Vision Zero ordinance and look at how we, form an entity that really jointly looks at what else we need to do to bring our Vision Zero, is our fatalities down to 0, is what that refers to. How can we just bring speeding down? For example, I'm asked, Chris knows, when they were doing the initial design for this State Street project, I really wanted it to go 1 lane in each direction, all the way from Spring and School Street, all the way, the rest of the way down to Main Street. MGM can have it be 1 lane in each direction by there, but we can't have it be 1 lane in each direction by the residences. So, we need to, and can we get one of these radar detection signs that then warn people what speed they're going as they're approaching the library from both directions? So, those don't cost a whole lot of money. So Walk Bike Springfield has been looking at, where can we put more signage up? Just last year, the state passed new legislation that school zones can now be posted. The school zones, the 20-mile-an-hour sign, they used to only be able to be posted for elementary school. They now can be posted for middle and high schools. Shouldn't we just look at what would it take to just get 20-mile-an-hour signage put up at all our schools? We did a walk audit starting at Springfield at SciTech last summer. The sidewalk, they come down out their driveway by Goucher Street, or as the Google map says, Gaucher Street. They have to cross 4 lanes of Roosevelt Ave to get to the sidewalk on the other side of the road. No protection, no crosswalk, no lights, no school zone posting. So at least let's get a school zone posting there at Roosevelt. So we have a bunch of examples like that all over the city. So we're just looking for, how do we, the McKnight Neighborhood Association, 3 months in a row has had to go to the Traffic Commission just to say, we would like the signs that are posted at 30, which used to be the default limit, now just posted to 25, because that's the default limit now. Yes, people won't go that speed, but yes, this is an all residential neighborhood. Can't we just post it at 25? 3 months in a row, and the Traffic Commission is now, we have to put a signboard up and get tested how fast cars are actually going. The neighborhood wants it to be 25. Can't we just let the neighborhood decide what they want? Because this is a new again, a new law this year, passed in 2023, that cities can now not have to go through a speed study to post a speed limit. They can decide on their own what speed we want in a given area. Enough for me. I'll let some of the other people, we just need to know the procedure for how to get more high cost and low cost things.
Okay. Well, thank you, Betsy. I'm sure Chris is taking notes on some of it, and I see Todd. Was it something you wanted to say, Todd? Todd, the floor is yours, Todd.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that, particularly on the mile per hour speed limit signs, and just a little history at the problem areas. About 20 years ago, the city tried to slow traffic down, and they did that by putting up the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit signs. Those areas are still a problem. So it would behoove us to put up the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit signs in those areas. I know that McKnight, which has had over 20 serious injuries and a fatality along those roads since the state started to keep those records, is a real problematic area. And of course, the city has done some wonderful things. They did a little bump out on St. James, and obviously infrastructure like the tables are going to do the most, but not to change the signs, which is really a low cost feature. And if you can just get one car going 25 instead of 30, everybody's slowing down. And just to be aware what this means, if you're hit by a car going 30 miles per hour as compared to a car going 25 miles per hour, you're 70% more likely to be killed. That's the difference between 30 and 25. So, and the shining example in McKnight is the young man that was killed on Bowdoin, which has a 30-mile-per-hour sign and no crosswalks. But for me, the most absurd is Springfield College campus. We still have 30-mile-per-hour signs going up Alden Street with all those young people crossing the street. Now, there's some infrastructure, obviously. There's the table there, but also further up Alden Street, where a 15-year-old was seriously hurt. It's still 30 miles per hour, and it's a tiny, tiny road. And the other one that just gets my goat, which is personal, is Merrimack. That's where my kids went to school, and we want our kids to walk to school. We're less than 2 miles from that school, and my kids, when it was nice, they would ride their bikes, and I would hold my breath and hope they came home every day. But Merrimack has one sidewalk, parking on both sides. It's a narrow street. The city rightfully put up those 30-mile-per-hour signs, 20 years ago. But now it looks like, oh, I can go faster on Merrimack, instead of, it should be 25. Every street highly, with homes, residential areas should be 25. And I just think it's a simple fix. And, and I think Betsy's right. The Traffic Commission is really hard to navigate. It's not posted. We don't know who's on it. They don't run by Robert's rules. I mean, it's just every time I go to that meeting, compared to other meetings that I've gone to, like the Conservation Commission, I go, holy cow. So and everything gets tabled, and this to me, the 30 mile to 25 mile per hour in McKnight seems to me to be a no-brainer. And I don't understand why the community has to go back so many times.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you for sharing. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard before I speak?
No, but I would like to, I'm on the Traffic Commission, I'd like to stick up for it. I mean, they do have procedures that they have to follow. And whenever citizens come in, they take up the issues that they've brought, but there are rules that they have to follow, particularly with speeds and things like that, and I believe the directives come from DPW Director Chris Signoli. So they do follow rules and procedures.
Thank you, Counselor.
Sure.
Now, Chris, so I had a few, just a few questions. As far as, when we're talking about safety and the different signage and things like that, is it difficult to change the signing to 25? Is that something that we can kind of look at trying to do?
In big picture, no. However, one of the things that we deal with constantly behind the scenes is anytime that there is any sort of automobile accident, whether it includes a pedestrian, whether it includes bicyclists, et cetera, we end up in a lawsuit. And we end up in discovery, and we end up in reviews. And I always get information or requests from attorneys that, hey, we need to see the warrant study. Hey, we need to see the speed study. Hey, we need to see this, we need to see that. So the idea of me just saying, I want to change a street to 25 miles an hour or change it to 40 miles an hour, we really still go by the standards of doing the necessary background work to make sure that what we're doing there isn't going to be causing the city any legal issues. So, just by saying, hey, let's just change the speed limit, we still go through a lot of that. You're seeing out there now, you do see a lot of the police signs, like right now it's on Bay, and I'm drawing a blank on the other one, that we're gathering data for to be able to get a lot of that speed data so that we can look at those modifications. They do, by law in Springfield, do have to go through the traffic commission to get that approval. So in the big picture, no, but we still do all of our background work to make sure that we're not having an issue. One of the arguments that I had with somebody about speed was on Page Boulevard. Page Boulevard in both directions have different speed limits because you do get into roadway geometry, roadway grade, roadway sight distance, and in certain directions, you have better sight distance, you're going uphill, you're going downhill. So you do have various speed limits, but we're looking at speed limits throughout the city right now to determine where and when we can reduce the speed limits on some of these roadways. Making it simple and just saying, hey, changing them all to 25 is not, could I do that? Yeah. I'm opening up us to certain liabilities. So I want to make sure we have more than enough background data to be able to support it. One of the things that I am surprised about when I start looking at roadway data is residents will always say, and I say the same thing in front of my house, you see a car go by and you go, my God, that guy's going 35 or that guy's going 40 miles an hour. And then you look at the data, the speeds that we get are always a lot lower than what people anticipate. So when we start looking at it, so the reduction of some of these speed limits becomes a little easier when we start looking at some of those roads, especially when we're dealing with 2-lane roadways, Bay Street, St. James, certain sections of Carew, etc. When you get to the Parker Streets and the Sumner Avenues and Boston Roads, it's a little bit of a different story. But on a couple of the other things, Mallow, before I move on, I didn't know if there was any other questions you wanted. I was just going to go through a couple of the items that Todd.
I have one more. I had a couple things.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
As far as the one thing I was always curious about when it comes to the actual implementing police and enforcement, what is it impossible for us to maybe put I know certain areas they'll have, if a person runs a red light or does something illegal, they'll get ticketed from a camera. I know that's kind of, to me, it's beneficial because the city will get money, it'll stop people from doing it. We can't have cameras monitoring any
You have to pass your state legislation first. Put your state hat,
It's illegal.
state house hat on. It's not legal yet in Massachusetts. It
Okay.
is pending legislation at the state level, though.
So
See?
that's what I was wondering. So I'll let I see my colleague Counselor Govan has her hand up. I don't know if she has
The one thing I
but
wanted to add to that, Mallow, if you asked me 10 years ago what my thought was on red light cameras, I thought they were awful. I thought that was one of the worst things. There was actually a group that was presenting to the city, and they did not present it as a safety thing. They presented it as a revenue thing. And, you know, they actually presented to me as the city engineer at the time, hey, you can do things like modify the yellow timing so you can get more revenue. And it's like, you know, I heard that and I'm like, this is crazy. At the state level, one of the things that the state of Massachusetts had to do when they did the electronic tolling was to be able to monitor vehicles at the state tolling level. They had to sign their soul away to make sure from the Fed that they weren't going to use it for speed enforcement. Because right now, you know, you get your toll, you go through Ludlow, you go through Charlton, you go through yada, yada, yada. They can actually calculate that, hey, you were going an average of 85 miles an hour. We're going to issue a ticket. My feelings in the state or in the city of Springfield right now, I'm probably more for red light cameras now than I ever have been, simply because of what does happen with the city. And I've spoken with our legislators about it and with Mass DOT a few times when the administrator's been in town, even lately as January, that it is something Mass DOT is looking at. But I get the feeling they're looking at it probably more so for the wrong reasons at the state level than they are for speed control or, you know, kind of just traffic control at a municipal level. So that makes me a little nervous.
Well, no, but no, Mass Bike and Walk Massachusetts and T for Mass are all working together on a version of the legislation. I'll get you the information about that. That is from the perspective that we would like it to be looked at. So there is a group of people. It is a piece of their priority, that the group priority legislation.
thank you, Betsy, because I really think it would be important actually to really start getting more modern technology to help us combat some of the speeding and things like that. And I see my Counselor Govan has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to, I guess Councilor Walsh started a controversy. I did want to talk about the Traffic Commission and how complicated it is to get things done. And this is no dig at any person, right? I think it's just the process that we have to go through, because I've been working, and Chris knows this, with Hector Velez and the Traffic Commission on trying to get a speed hump for Mrs. Mrs. Footman, Chris, you know her
Yeah.
well, on Du Bois Street. And it's just such a process. I actually haven't been to the Traffic Commission meeting, so I'm sorry, Councilor Wash, I didn't realize that you were on the commission. I'm going to try to make it to some of those meetings, but you know, I'm sure they do have the policy, the procedures that they have to follow. But I think we have to figure out a way, I guess, to make it more, I don't know, efficient, maybe that's not the word. But what I've noticed on the city council since I've been on here just 3 years, right, is that things take so long. And I think Chris has heard me say this before, and they just take a long time. Just this, for example, right, the State Street pedestrian safety issue that, you know, happened with when we lost our librarian. It's taken so long to get things to happen. And I guess that's just the way things are in government and, you know, city processes, I guess, because you can't really, you know, speed through these things when we're trying to stop speeding in our city. So I just wanted to say that. And then also a thought came up when you were talking about I bet you I lost it. Okay. It might come back to me later, but thank you. So again, Chris, you know, no dig or anything like that. I just want to, I guess, support Mr. Crossett on his comments, you know, about the Traffic Commission. And we just have to find a better way to do things maybe differently. But thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I see Counselor Davia on, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris, this is a fascinating conversation that I do think could benefit from a couple more meetings afterwards. However, I think that there's many layers to this onion. And I think that we're talking about the actual structural changes, and we're talking about the vehicles themselves and how we can get them to slow down. But I also think that, and I would love to get your thoughts on this, the other side of the equation, and that is the pedestrians themselves, because pedestrian safety comes from pedestrians themselves. As we all know, we have groups of people here. We have people that they throw themselves on the street, and then they look at you like you are the one with the issues. Would you mind commenting on that, and any thoughts on how we can start combating that? I'm going to call it an epidemic that you see it a lot, particularly during the summer and during the Christmas season. People that they just throw themselves on the street. You could see here on Sumner Avenue. They just wantonly and randomly just walk like there's no issues whatsoever on the road. I would love to get your thoughts on that.
Counselor, thank you. It is probably one of the most infuriating things that I deal with. Virtually every, I don't want to say everyone, but I'm going to say a very close percentage of deaths that I deal with in the city of Springfield, we have on tape, for better or for worse. The good thing is that we kind of get to see what happens. When there was a death of a student at the intersection of Dwight and State Street a few years ago, looking at the video, we've determined that less than 30% of the people who cross the streets in a bunch of downtown areas touch the button. Now, and sometimes one person, and you got 20 people across the street, but I'm talking about incidents of people having to cross the street. Nobody uses the buttons. They go when they have to, or they do hit the button, and then when they get a gap, they go. So that is a little bit of an issue. And again, I never try to do victim blaming, but we always try to get the root of what happened. And a couple of weeks ago, there was a gentleman who was hit on a scooter on State Street. That person was driving down the right lane and cut diagonally across an intersection on a green light. You know, how do you, and these are the type of things that you're trying to deal with on the pedestrian side and on the education side as well. It has become a very, very difficult thing in the city, and you see it around schools that, I always hate to say, I don't want something to happen there, but sooner or later, something will happen at some of these schools that I look, one of the ones that's probably the most frustrating, 3 locations that are frustrating for me are Forest Park Middle School, not Forest Park, excuse me, Sumner Avenue School, where parents double, triple park, kids walk across Sumner Avenue. Talmadge Street, parents park in McDonald's, kids walk across Allen Street. And Milton Bradley School, where parents park on both sides and kids run across the street. Things like that are extremely frustrating on the school side, number one, but in general on the education side. Now, when you get to the bigger intersections, Boston Road and things like that, you do see more people waiting than you do in the downtown area, but it's more frustrating to me seeing it in the downtown area.
And Chris, I agree with you on this particular aspect of this issue is very sensitive. And of course, we don't want to engage in victim blaming. However, I do feel this is the other side of the equation that we must have a very serious, hard discussion about, because it is also their safety. And I don't know about you guys, but my safety begins with me. And so I think, and there is a chair, I think this is, I would love to see maybe follow-ups on this, but maybe Chris, and I'm just trying to think outside of the box here as we talk, maybe we can come up with some sort of educational campaign for residents addressing their safety. I don't know what it will look like for the people than me, but maybe we should look at the possibility of doing something
And I think, Counselor, that's gonna happen, not to jump ahead a little bit, but our Safe Streets and Roads for All project that we're gonna be moving forward with is going to require a lot of education simply because I don't want to spend $18 million and just hope people follow rules. So
Right.
there's gonna be some education as part of that. And just to kind of close out the discussion on that, the SS4A, for people who don't know that, the city of Springfield made an application for $18 million, 18.7 to the Federal Highway Administration. We were awarded it last year. It took us a year to get a contract with FHWA. So our work has just started, and we are looking at 15 intersection locations and 10 corridors for safety improvements. The intersections, that consultant is a little ahead of the consultant that is on corridors. We're having public hearings on those on May 7th, next Tuesday, and May 14th, the Tuesday after that. And I can't remember which one is which. One's at Raymond Jordan and one's at South End Community Center. We just posted that on Facebook
Right.
today, and Molly through the mayor's office is going to get that out to the media as well. And at this point, we're doing concept stuff, but we're trying to look at some of these intersections and look at things from street lighting to pedestrian phasing to pedestrian timings, optimization of signals, bump outs, things like that throughout the entire intersection area, that we'll be discussing in the meeting in the next couple weeks.
Thank you so much for your thoughts, Chris. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
I'll just jump in a little bit in terms of related to that, though, is, I mean, one of the phenomena that we have across the city, arterials do not have crosswalks across them. I
Mhm.
mean, when we did a walk audit in the McKnight neighborhood, you could stand more or less in the sort of midway, the length of Bay Street, St. James Street, and you could look almost as far as you could look in each direction and maybe see two crosswalks in distant positions, or like on St. James, only because the one got added at Wellesley Street, or on Bay Street, you see the one at Dartmouth, and that's it. I mean, you get there, you go long stretches without crosswalks. And I would hope that as part of the corridor, I mean, I'm just all excited about, these corridor looking, because that's really got to be one of the things that we finally sort of figure out. How do we let pedestrians, I mean, part of the reason we do have such bad behavior crossing wherever, because there are so few places you're sort of allowed to cross. I mean, and I do have to say, and I'm glad the Dwight and State Street intersection is one of the ones that's part of the intersection improvements, because the timing on those pedestrian lights, I cross that a lot, and they are all off. And you do not get when the cars are stopped at Dwight to going towards Maple, nobody can go left or right or into that street, and yet pedestrians aren't given a green light to cross there. So there's little things, or like we did a walk audit with a woman who's using a walker who likes to use her walker to get to the senior center from Independence House to the senior center. That traffic light wasn't long enough for her. It's time for the students at Putnam, not for the seniors at So little things like that, I hope, I think hopefully is part of the Safe Streets for All, and then just as a overall comprehensive look, as we'll have a whole new look at where we need crossings across streets, as I said, like across Roosevelt from Sci-Tech. Those students don't have any protection right there. So, but then I do say the ordinance the last amendments for the Traffic Commission were passed by the council in 1993.
Hmm.
Was 21 years ago. So I would like the council to at least look at how the wording of that ordinance is. I do feel it's a little bit of a conflict of interest that the head of the Springfield Parking Authority has a designated position on that. They get revenue from having people have to park in their lots. Why should that person be then weighing in on where other metered other parking is allowed in the
You
city?
know, let's be fair to the traffic commission, you know, they have the police, they have the fire, they have a city representative. And Chris, you know, because they all report to you, that there's procedures that they have to file. And why a lot of things get, they don't
Tabled.
vote, is because people don't show up at the meeting. That's why they get
Well,
referred.
I mean, it's 21 years old and it needs to be relooked at, particularly because I've been told it's why the Complete Streets Commission, Council has never been formed, because there is this traffic commission. And if the one entity is blocking the formation of what would be a much more comprehensive entity, I have an issue with, it needs to all be relooked at. The council
Right.
passed having a council, they passed having the traffic commission. And one is preventing the other from happening.
Thank
So
you.
it-
Thank-
Please.
That's true, but I
But-
can't find the button to raise my hand.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Counselor.
I just wanted to bring up Sumner Avenue. And speaking of, people on Sumner Avenue in the street, they're a danger to themselves. So I don't understand why they're allowed to step out in traffic.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Counselor Govan, I see you have your
You know,
hand
the
up.
table for Sumner Avenue.
I agree with you, Kateri, and I think, I don't know if you guys remember, someone came to the city council at a public speak out and talked about teaching children how to cross the street, right? Because when they go to the crossing guard doesn't wait for the red light. He stops traffic and he lets them go. Sometimes he stops traffic before the kids get to the corner and the kids just keep walking like there's not a light there. So I think starting with the school department, having the crossing guards teach the kids, okay, here's a light. We're going to wait for the light to turn so that we can cross the street. That's, I think, a great place to start there. And then in addition to all the other things that we can do, I'm really excited that Chris said that there's going to be an educational component to this grant that he's got coming forward. And then another question that came up when you said, Councilor Walsh, that people don't come to the traffic commission meetings, I would try to find out why they don't come to the traffic commission meeting,
no,
right? Are those
those-
meetings
No,
posted?
I'm
It
talking,
wasn't posted until recently.
no, I'm talking about people that have brought an issue forward and they're supposed to come back and make a presentation. And these are the people that don't show up. That doesn't
Okay.
happen frequently.
So then, because I know that Mrs. Footman has talked to me about the traffic commission meetings and she had some concerns about not being told that there was another meeting. As an example,
I'm not
Mr.
sure.
Zepke out here in Indian Orchard on Main Street, there was a handicap question and the traffic commission was supposed to notify him. He was never notified about the meeting. So the meeting happened without him because nobody notified him about the meeting. So I think some of the things like that we could certainly, improve on would help a lot. But I really like Betsy's idea of looking at that 1991 or 93, you said, plan ordinance that the city council reviewed back then. I think it's time,
1993.
thank you. It's time for us to relook at that and come to 2024.
I see, Counselor
you, Mr.
Walsh,
Chair.
do you have
No,
any?
I had just asked Chris about the timetable for the Sumner Avenue improvements.
Now, is there a link or something where they notify the public when these meetings come about?
I'm sure it's on the city
Right,
website.
it's on the website.
Yeah, they're on the city council website.
Okay,
Only recently, only very recently. And the traffic commission, if you go to the part of the
Actually,
website that says boards and commissions, there is no information about the traffic commission there.
okay. Thank you. Now I see, Todd, I see you in queue. I just had one quick question, and Todd, I'm gonna let you have a quick answer. Now, Chris, one thing I think a lot of times with I don't see anyone addressing the elephant in the room. Me being a kid, my father was a police head of internal affairs, and really when it comes to the law and everything, I'm kind of like, when you talk about jaywalking, doesn't that still exist? I mean, dude, isn't that on the books, or am I crazy, Chris? Is there such thing as jaywalking anymore?
It's a dollar
There-
fine.
There is, I think it's a, I think you can pay it with the lint in your pocket. if
It's
you
a
get,
dollar
Dollar.
fine.
Yeah.
It's a
I
dollar
think you can-
fine, but the police don't really want to have it increased because to get it then enforced, they would have to spend time going to court and writing up everything. And so, actually jaywalking,
And that
enforcement of
helps.
jaywalking is passe.
And to me, I just, a lot of times it now put ownership on the actual individual. A lot of people do not, I don't care if there's crosswalks there. A lot of people aren't using them. They just walk across the street. So I know that there was a such thing as jaywalking in certain areas. I've seen it enforced, and I see people conscious about it. I mean, we have
I'm sorry.
cameras. We have police with the cameras, we have the cars with the cameras. I would think if we adjust maybe the actual fine, and we don't actually have it right on recording because they have the actual cameras on them themselves when they're doing an infraction of jaywalking. But for a dollar, oh my gosh, Betsy, that sounds horrible. A dollar. But that's all. Todd, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say, I'm super excited. I think the message from Chris has been fabulous, that in the developments, infrastructural developments are going to make a big difference. And the more crosswalks we put in, the less there's going to be jaywalking. And so I think improvements are happening. I do want to go back to the traffic commission, because I just want to reiterate Betsy's point, because I want people to understand it is the only commission that's not listed. And you don't know who's on it. And when you go before them, they don't introduce themselves. That's not the way we want Springfield to be. We want it to be better than that.
And Todd, do you know who's in charge of it? What how does it work? Who's in charge? You guys know who's in charge of
Yeah,
it?
I think I don't
Maybe
know his name.
Councilor
He's
Wall?
Is it
wonderful.
Hector Velez?
He's super
Is it Hector
smart.
Velez, Chris?
No.
No, Hector is one of the he's the
okay.
representative from DPW there. Hector
Yeah,
spends
Hector-
his time trying to get the materials up on the screen
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But
Chris, do you know who runs it? Do we know who runs that particular division?
There's,
Catering-
I'm sorry, there's catering is on it. We have a representative from the fire department, representative from the police department, a representative from the spa parking authority. Attorney Robert Shuchuk from the
Shuchuk.
law department kind of runs the meetings.
Mm.
And we also have residents on it as well. Meetings are usually held the first Monday of the month.
They've changed.
First Wednesday.
However, it depends on availability. We ran into a lot of problems. Claudio Concepcion was running the traffic commission for a while, and obviously through Claudio's help, a lot of meetings were getting canceled and pushed back. But God bless
It's the
Claudio.
first-
But
it's
so
Chris, it's
he
the
is
first
available
Wednesday.
now.
Chris, it's
Yeah.
the first Wednesday of the month, but then the last 2 months got pushed to Thursday because the room wasn't available. It is this Wednesday. It is this first Wednesday.
Yeah, the meetings are now at Tapley Street.
And it
And
happens.
available on Zoom.
Okay,
And
and
if I may, Mallow,
yes,
unless you
go
have anything else, there was a handful of things that people asked that I
yes,
would
go ahead,
just like to
Chris.
touch on. Uh, Catering, you asked a question about the X.
Yes,
At this point, the project, we are going through all of the title work and appraisals for construction easements, easements that we need for the project. The anticipated is that later this summer, the project's going out to bid through Mass DOT. We are actively working on 2 Safe Routes to School projects. One of them is all around Rebecca Johnson School, which the project to me has become a royal pain in the ass, not because what we're trying to do is bad. This has been going on for 5 years and it's a Mass DOT led project.
Mm.
And so it's just like we never seem to get anywhere on the work. The other Safe Routes to School is around Bowles School up off of East Street, Bowles Circle up there. So that is being looked at as well for walking, pedestrians, bicyclists, as well as school buses up there. In working with Mass DOT, there's a whole group inside of Mass DOT which I would call extremely progressive when it comes to looking at different things. And when I say progressive, they're not holding firm on standards and the law, and it's like a lot of, hey, let's try something. However, the people who hold the purse strings at Mass DOT are, no, you will follow the rule of the law, you will follow this, and if you want something changed, you have to jump through hoops. When we were talking before about speed limits, changing a speed limit, I now have to, even though I still have to petition the chief engineer of Mass DOT to get his approval. So I then have to put together all my data and send it in. I'm working on that now for East Springfield. They actually went through the traffic commission, so I'm in the process of doing that. We talked about some of the radar speed limit signs. If the neighborhoods get all their money, Zaida, you are one of them. There's probably 25 or 30 of those that will be going in around the city. Various neighborhoods have requested it as part of their neighborhood enhancement fund. I can't remember what the title of that is.
The neighborhood enhancement, yeah.
But virtually every neighborhood approached me about wanting to do it. I like them. They gather data. They are relatively inexpensive. However, we have to pay about $1,000 a year for software costs for every one of them. So they're starting to get a little expensive on that regard, but we gather a ton of data off of them. We get number of vehicles, we get speeds, we get 85th percentile, we get 20th percentile, we get all of the good data that we need. The problem is that data right now is getting to be a little overwhelming, because we have a bunch of them around the city. I'm just looking, the
I don't want to interrupt you, but I just got an email from the city council office that this meeting needs to end quickly because they have another one starting at
I got
5:30.
another one.
So they're
Okay,
gonna-
So Mallow, we're
Yeah.
gonna ask you to schedule another one.
Well, I
Let us
see,
keep going.
I see,
Thank you.
Chris, I'll talk to you later.
What I will do this for
Everybody.
everybody, I'll put together in the next week or so, just a memo of a bunch of this stuff and send it out to everybody so that they can have it before we have the next meeting.
Okay, and
Okay.
Some
then
of the
maybe,
things I wasn't able to address, but a bunch of the projects and stuff that we're working on.
okay,
All right.
and Mallow, we'll work to find another time.
I'm
Thank
sure
you
you'll
all.
catch me. You'll be able to get me.
Okay.
Oh, too.
All right. Everyone has a good day. Thank you guys. And this will be adjourning the meeting.